another episode, FilmSpeak. I'm your host, Bill. Maniacal laugh, maniacal laugh.
Time for another Film Speak, the show that is like a ginger stepchild nobody wants to admit that is theirs. Going to be a great show today as I'm joined by special co-host Dovey.
Hello everyone, it's great to be back.
And also today we'll be joined by the very special guest, filmmaker William Lee and actor Haley J. Madison.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear what they have been doing in local film. But first, let's get the nitty-gritty on the classic comedy Blazing Saddles.
You know, that is a big film for me, just another big one.
Well, how's that?
I have seen it more than any other film.
Well, that has to be a lot.
Over 200 times. From the 70s to now, I keep watching it. It helped establish my foundations of humor and the point of view of the idiocy of racism. A lot of people pick Young Frankenstein for their favorite Mel Brooks, but mine will always be Blazing Saddles.
Well, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on it, but first let's check out some bits that our guests brought in, and then we'll join them at the table.
Sounds great.
From Hollywood to Columbus, one would think there's no connection. But in this week's Etc., Casey Jones found filmmaking is not limited to Tinseltown.
Jim, when you think about filmmaking, you usually talk about places like Hollywood or New York City. But today, we will introduce you to a man who says Columbus, Ohio is a great place to make movies. William Lee is a man with a mission. He's a filmmaker who sees no reason you can't make movies in Columbus, Ohio.
Well, there's been a trend in filmmaking over the past few years to get away from the Los Angeles and New York-based film productions. The reason is bottom line costs. It's cheaper to do it here. You don't have to deal with film unions. You don't have to deal with a lot of permit fees. The Ohio Film Bureau is very cooperative in that regard. The cities here in Ohio are very cooperative in that regard. Many Hollywood films have been shot Cincinnati, Cleveland, even Columbus. And so we're just following a trend that has already been started by the people moving away from LA and New York. So it's just a continuation of a trend. And there's a lot of people eager to do work. And I've always said that all the talent does not exist in Los Angeles or New York.
Lee's films have been screened in New York and other film festivals around the country, but he's still waiting for that big break.
For years, I dug into my own pockets to make films. I used credit cards, borrowed from parents, borrowed from friends, put a lot of money together, and it was usually we would put $5,000, $6,000 together and go shoot the movie. This time around, we've got an investor group of investors from all over the country, so now you're dealing with other people's money. It's a long, laborious process. We've been waiting around since March, actually, to start this film, and when you're talking about a budget of millions of dollars, it's not like you're just reaching into your pocket anymore. You're literally reaching into other people's pockets, and you have a big responsibility there to make a product that has quality, but in the bottom line, once again, is going to make these investors their money back or a profit. So it's a little rough because the waiting game, waiting around for that phone call to say, okay, it's a go, is the roughest thing. You've been told that you're going to make a multi-million-dollar film, but the waiting is probably the worst part of it.
It may take time, but Lee is determined. Like most independent filmmakers, he knows he's picked a rough road, but it's one that has its own rewards. Columbus is a long way from Hollywood, but William Lee still has his dream, a dream he's determined to make come true. That's this week's Etc. See you soon. Jim?
Thanks, Case.
Over. Where you can join the party by dying. Kill 'em. War, war, aye, yeah. Hey, hello. Yeah.
Don't hit. What are you...
No! No! No!
Who are these people? It's a really an alien invasion and a cover-up of these nefarious activities of crossbreeding humans. What can we do? Go. Please, God, if you watch this, take this information and do something with it. You got to do something.
I have watched you humans for 2,000 years in your fight against evil. You have failed miserably. My patience has ended. The fun and games have come to an end. To go to war, you need soldiers. This war is for the fate of your world, and standing in your way is the army from hell.
Welcome back to Film Speak. We're sitting here with our guest, William Lee, actor, director, producer, film mogul, and actor Haley J. Madison. Thank you guys for coming on the show today.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, we'll start with you, William Lee. What have you been up to lately, and what projects do you have coming out in the near future?
Well, I'm going to retire soon after this. No. My actors will tell you that's my favorite line. After we wrap a shoot, the first thing I say is, this is my last movie. I'm out of here. I'm done. As you know, we completed a film called Army from Hell last year, and is currently in the process of finalizing our distribution. Something we could probably talk about during the course of conversation. Very convoluted process, not as simple as just shooting a film and saying, here, buy my film. There's a lot more to it. Tomorrow, as you also know, we're doing some reshooting on a film called Alien Contamination, found footage movie, which is something I previously hadn't done. I don't have a real affinity for that type of film because I don't believe in being phony.
Yeah.
And most found footage films are crap.
The only one that comes to my mind that I really enjoyed thoroughly was J.J. Abrams' Cloverfield.
Okay.
I thought that was well done, but for the most part, I'm with you. They just,
Yeah, it's like you're basically telling a lie in cinematic form. You've got a camera and you never see anything. You hear people, oh, look at that. The camera never moves. Wow, look at that giant monster. We never see the monster. But everybody freaks out. Oh, it's a great film. Please, give me a break. So, and then we're currently in pre-production for a film called Badfellas, which is basically my urban version of the film Goodfellas. And it's my first action comedy ever. And to keep a long story short, when I was in grad school, the fellow students said to me that if I made comedies, I'd be absolutely phenomenal. And I was never really one for comedy films because comedy is really the hardest thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people don't get my jokes. But I did this thesis film called Violent Humor. And the whole class was on the floor. They could not breathe. And they're like, dude, do you do comedy? Is that what you're going to do? I said, no, I do action films. And the whole room went silent. So I've decided after 30 years of just action, I'm actually going to try to do something that is a little more light. So that's long and short of it.
I'm with you. Comedy is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is you can't think that you're funny.
No.
Because as soon as you think that you're funny, you're not funny.
No.
You have to play for the truth in the situation scenarios. And if it goes to the absurd sometimes, as long as it's truth in it, it sells. Mm-hmm. And that's where, the writing has to be solid, but you also have to have solid players to pull it off. Yeah. Because we don't need somebody mugging, for the jokes.
That's why I just stick to horror. I'll just be scary because I know I'm not funny at all.
Well, I think real comedy is rooted in it's not being funny. Mm-hmm. It's being true to the character. You know, and if a character is devoted to a situation, they're oblivious to everything that's going on around them, and they're the straight person. It's the action and environment around them that really creates the comedy.
That's pretty much how it went on Henrik Couteau's set for Awkward Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I didn't think I was funny at all, but like the situation that I kept getting my character into was, I guess, pretty funny. Everyone thought it was pretty good.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I've heard from several people that it is a remarkably good movie.
Oh, it's great, and it's like, it's crazy that Henrik Couteau made a comedy that actually has a lot of like morals in it and like a lot of lessons to be learned. I'm like, Henrik, you're...
I've heard from several people that they feel that it is his best work to date. So yeah, I'm curious to be able to see that. Yeah, excellent. Speaking of which, I guess we'll flop over to here. Aside from Awkward Thanksgiving, what other films have you coming up or have been working on?
Well, I mean, I'll just list a few, I guess. I was a part of Dustin Mills' Kill That Bitch. He is a indie horror filmmaker based out of Toledo. A lot of Henrik's actresses work with him as well. And let's see, what else? I did a short film called Eat It Up, which is also a comedy. I forgot I did that, actually. It's a short gross out comedy, hilarious. It's very similar to like, it's like Crybaby, like the John Waters style.
Oh, we love John.
Yeah.
My daughter and we love John Waters films.
Yeah, so that was really fun to get to be a part of that. I was in a female gang called the Von Schweets.
Von Schweets.
Nice, the Von Schweets.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
that was really cool. I also do a bunch of horror films. Like next week, I'm flying out to Alabama to do 2 indie films with this person named Jay Burleson. He's not very significant in the scene yet, but he is, flying me out. I'm spending 5 days with him. They made a whole set for our movie, and it's gonna be really fun to film that with him next week. Outside of that, I'm in a bunch of Henrik films, like all of them. Haunted House on Sorority Row, which has been released. Have you guys gotten a chance to see that one yet?
I have not.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Well, I'm really proud of that one. I like it a lot. We filmed it in this crazy house in the middle of nowhere, and like the entire film was made there. And it's like this perfect setting that he just happened to find this house. He like knew somebody who was like, yeah, I got an abandoned house you can use. That's cool. So we spent like 2 weeks or whatever shooting that, and it was all in this like crazy house. It was already creepy. We didn't even have to do any set design. It was like just already perfect.
That works out good.
Yeah.
I know it always sounded like an homage to a favorite slasher movie of mine from the 80s called Sorority House Massacre.
Well, yep, that's like his throwback. Like,
yeah. I didn't like any of the sequels, but the first one, because it was written by a feminist and directed by a feminist. And there's lots of hidden subtext messages.
Political agendas.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the killer kills all the women with a drill,
Of course.
Oh,
okay. Of course, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, William, with Badfellows coming out, what trials have you been having getting ready for pre-production on that?
The typical, and it all starts with the audition process, which unfortunately is always a learning process for new actors and actresses. There's a certain level of professionalism, even in independent film, that one has to come to before one decides to audition for a film.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the process, you're probably better off not submitting to that particular film. And I mean, anybody who knows me, who's been on my Facebook page, knows I get into it with people, and not to be a jerk or an a-hole, which is basically my reputation in independent cinema. I don't do it just to piss people off. I do it because I want you to understand it's a hard world out there, and there's 1,000 people who want to be in a film. And if you don't stand above that milieu below you, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So starting off as a professional and professionally submitting is step number 1, but then number 2 is blowing me away. And there's a real simple formula that I have for that. If I watch your audition tape, no matter what it is, no matter what role I've given you, if in the first 5 seconds I say that's an actor, you've got the part. I don't have to see a 30-minute monologue. I don't have to see all of your movies. I don't have to see you playing your serious side and then your comic side. Give me 10 seconds of your best stuff.
Yeah.
And usually 99.9% of the time, I'm pretty good about who can perform in a film.
You'll know in that 10-second time slot if you want them, for character.
It's something as simple as the way they compose themselves before they present to me the character.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got audition tapes where in 10 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, really? I mean, you're submitting this. Do you want me to see this? We had an audition in New York back in 1988 where the woman was basically stripping in front of us for this role. And she was trying to give the performance too, and she's cackling like a witch. And I'm looking at my co-director and I'm going, this isn't going to work. We need to get her out of here. And it was because she was so over the top, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It wasn't a matter of just giving me herself. She wanted to be the character, and then, well, I'm really going to show William Lee that I'm really good for this role. And that's when you get in trouble. You first have to be yourself. And like Bruce Lee said, it, to know oneself is the most important thing. You have to know who you are, your limits, your limitations. Maybe there's roles you can't do. Well, don't do them.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you want to stretch yourself and go beyond what you know about yourself and test yourself, be sure that you're going to be able to fulfill that, carry on, and then complete that role. Because I have a lot of, and not to go on and belabor the point, but I had one actress who I gave her an explicit description of what I wanted in the film. She shows up on set, it's the exact opposite of what I told her.
Yeah.
And from that point, you just throw your hands up and say, all right, they don't get it. So you, as an actor, you have to be a really good listener. You have to take criticism, and you have to understand that criticism is nothing personal.
Yeah.
It's all about making you the best performer you can be.
That can be a delicate balance because as an actor, you have to be thick-skinned.
Yes.
Because you're going to be taking rejection a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But on the flip side of it, so many actors are so insecure.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird balance between the two. Did you have anything that you would like to?
No, I'm really interested in the Badfellas storyline. Is it? And you said it's sort of like your an urban take on Goodfellas, which is a magnificent film. And so is it? Give us a little bit of story behind that. I'm curious.
Well, I played Vinny Vincento, who's this Italian black guy from Brooklyn, New York. And I got this whole family around me. They come in all size, shapes, and colors. I got an Italian wife. I got a nephew who's like from Kentucky. So you got all these guys from all these different parts of the world, and they all come together, and basically it's a chase for $200,000. Go figure. Pretty freaking easy. Thank you.
Nice.
And basically the film operates on the Alfred Hitchcock MacGuffin theory, which is you have this item that you're looking for, but the item really doesn't take center stage in the film. So what you basically have is a character play. Different characters come into it, they express themselves, there's different set pieces, and much like Pulp Fiction, it's not a movie where you just go boom, boom, boom. There are elaborate sequences where if you took them out of the film, they'd still work, such as Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction, the whole boxing movie, that could have been a movie. You know, Samuel L. and John Travolta, there's another movie. But Tarantino, in his wisdom and his genius, puts those all together into one film. And so, therefore, you have sort of this storybook. And it's not the traditional linear movement of a script. It's like, well, they did something, and wow, that's interesting. And each character is unique. They're different. There's Buddhist monks in this movie. There's a Catholic priest. There's a complete Broadway stage show inside of a restaurant.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So it's something that I started writing in 1996. And as Bill knows, in 1997, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus, which basically almost ended my life. I had 2 years of chemo, rehab. I was pretty much done with filmmaking until the year 2000 when my present wife, Paula, God bless her soul, picked up a video in Blockbuster. And it was something called Ninja Blade or some ridiculous title. And she was really pissed. And the reason she was pissed was because the film sucked. And she says, William, if these people are putting films out, you need to get back into filmmaking. And so I resurrected my script from 1996, and here we are, 2014-15, and now it's actually going to come to life for me. So
that is awesome.
So that's filmmaking. It's life.
Yeah.
Is it still going to be an action movie?
Action comedy.
Action comedy.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. She's got a part because she picked that up. I can't leave my action roots because, I mean, you know, and to bring it back to home, in 1966 we moved here to Dayton from New York. And made my first film here in Dayton in 1974 at a place called Princeton Park, which is near west side of town. And from that point on, just continued to make martial arts films because Bruce Lee was my idol. He influenced everything I do and still do. But like I said, I've always had this comic thing going on, which I've sort of avoided. And it plays into Blazing Saddles too. Black producers and actors have typically been put into this box of films they can make, and one of them is comedy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to become another Eddie Murphy or whoever. I wanted to do, I wanted to be my own self. So, but the point is, since I seem to have some talent for that, what the hell? So Badfellas is that action and comedy.
Play to your strength.
There you go.
Well, it is definitely a screenplay and a story that has carried with you for decades now. You know, and if you haven't been able to let it go in that time period, it needs to get made.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and the thing is, my sister, God rest her soul, before she passed, this was the one film that she would read the script and she would just come in the room laughing. And I'm like, sis, what's the problem? You know that one scene where the guy with the she's just dying. And my sister, she was my greatest support base. Anything I did, no matter how badly it sucked, she was always like, William, that's good. Keep going for it. Yeah. And that sort of pushed me through to where I am now, where if I have confidence in something, I'm able, because I'm my own worst critic. And so I'm able to do it, which is why now I can do this film, because I feel like, yeah, I've graduated to a point in my life where I have that kind of self-confidence that I'm not worried about being stereotyped as a comic filmmaker, because that's not me. Yeah. So I'll be able to switch genres pretty much how I want to.
You should dedicate it to your sister.
Oh, I definitely, I have.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I already have, yeah.
Any last things from you, Haley?
About my movies?
About movies, about thoughts, what you had for breakfast today.
She's in Badfellas now.
Whatever's on your mind.
So I just got cast in another role. There we go. That's I'll close with that.
Well, sweet. We'll be working together then.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, Bill is in Badfellas as well, and he's playing the Russian drug czar Anton Procaine.
Wow.
I'm a character actor, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. He gives me some juicy
roles.
God.
Yeah, it's when people see it, it is not if you're expecting Goodfellas, that's not it.
Right.
Yeah.
It is based on that template, New York and a family, but beyond that, it just goes in all kinds of different.
Well, I'm a character actress.
Well, then we've got it.
She is a comedy character actress
too. So.
You know, we can't mention Goodfellas without me pointing out that one of my favorite camera shots in the whole world is in Goodfellas. When they enter the restaurant, it takes her into through the back kitchen. It's that one take shot of him going all the way to the table. That is one of my favorite shots in the whole world. And he said and Scorsese said he got it in 5 takes.
Yeah.
I just can't believe all of it, because the people crisscrossing and everything happening, I can't believe that they got that in 5 takes.
Haley, on the films you've been working on, have the directors done a lot of takes, or is it traditionally they get the things they need and move on?
Well, it definitely depends on the director. Right. Like if there's a certain, we are on a time frame and we can only get so much done, then it's fewer takes. But then I try to do more before that and practice a little bit more. But then I do have those directors who are like, that was good, do it again. That was good, do it again. And then we get multiple takes until he feels comfortable with it. But
I'm famous for saying one more take.
Just one more time.
I'll say it 6 times.
Do we have time for my dissertation on safety? Let me say
Just one for safety.
Let me say this to all the directors out there. I hate you. And I think it was John Huston who said that if you have to go more than 3 takes, the actor has lost his meaning in the character.
Yeah.
And it's true. Typically, I go 1, maybe 2 takes is the most, and then I shoot a reverse angle, a cutaway, whatever, I get out of it, because now you've got the actor thinking, oh my God, what do I do now? And you really screw your setup when you get to a point where everybody's outthinking themselves and trying to one-up themselves. Because I've had actors who've driven me crazy. Well, do you want it like this, a little more serious? I said, no, dude, I want to get to the next scene. Will you do the scene? So that is one of my pet peeves in directing is, when you got it, you got it. What are you trying to prove?
Preparation is key. And coming from a stage background, for myself, I think that helps, because I've got it ready. It's ready. I know my lines. I don't flub. And then if there's something needs to be tweaked, it can be done in those 1 or 2 extra little takes. You know.
Well, you see, I'll get multiple takes because I like multiple angles.
Yeah.
I'm big into editing and stuff. So I like to get my Hitchcock close-ups, you know, and then work my camera back from there as I get takes and stuff. But yeah, if an actor, and I like doing long scenes too, and that's a lot of times where my multiple takes come from, is because I want this whole 4-minute segment solid through, you know. You dropped a line, so we got to go back to the beginning.
Script supervisor comes in, and someone for continuity.
But yeah, I completely agree that, you know, when I heard Les Miserables, Anne Hathaway's famous scene, they did 60 takes.
Yeah.
They ended up using the third. They ended up using the third take.
Yeah.
But they did 60
Take
takes.
3. Number 3.
Yeah, 3's the magic number.
I just can't see that.
That's too much.
Yeah. I find that a lot of a lot of actors, well, not a lot of actors, but many actors I work with have a little trouble working with me because I tend to have the film up here.
Yeah.
Every cut, every angle, every facial expression, every action sequence is right here. So I'm telling them I've got it, and they're going, well, that wasn't my best performance. Well, I'm like, yeah, it is, because I got it
It's
up
what
here.
you wanted, yeah.
So it becomes a bit difficult to translate that knowledge because I don't work with storyboards either. Everything is here, and I'm like, this is how I want it. I know when I want the close-up, and typically what I'll do is I'll shoot a master shot with a moving camera, like a Steadicam, and then just shoot my close-ups. That's it. And so when I get to the edit session, I'm not going, oh my God, I got 60 shots I got to look at. No, I've got my master and work off of that.
And just work off of that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much for sharing about your projects and what films you guys have been doing. And here in a minute, we're going to discuss and break down the absolute classic film, Blazing Saddles. See you in a minute.
Hello, and welcome to my world. That's my best buddy, Marley Jack Lee, relaxing here at the lab, Cinema Lexicon Productions, and I'm William Lee. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the crowdfunding that we're going to be having for our new film, Bad Fellas. Bad Fellas is a film that I wrote back in 1996, and it came about as, actually started out sort of like something that I dreamed about, and slowly I put pieces of a puzzle together and took various movies that I had seen in the past that sort of seemed to work well together, of most notably the film Cotton Comes to Harlem, a 1970s blaxploitation film featuring Godfrey Cambridge and Raymond St. Jacques. And then taking ideas from the film Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction, and something as obscure as It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and sort of put this all together and came up with a script with incredible characters, just a really incredible story, and just utilizing the MacGuffin that Alfred Hitchcock would always use, and that is something that really drives the story but really isn't part of the main story itself. So basically what you have is $222 million stolen from a Russian mob boss by a black Italian gangster named Vinnie Vincenzo, who, that's who I'm playing in this freaking film, all right? You know what I'm talking about. So, so Vinnie has a multi-ethnic family, people of all different walks of life, and eventually everybody's after this $220 million, but of course along the way there's comedy, there's social statement, there's drama, there's a little bit of everything in this film, and it's really nothing that you can categorize in any particular genre. My hope is to shoot a film which will be in two parts, much like Quentin Tarantino did with Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, featuring a lot of martial arts, a lot of gunplay, a lot of slapstick. I've been watching a lot of Max Sennett films lately, just trying to get back into the swing of things. That was sort of the films I started out as a kid watching, Sennett and Chaplin and Fatty Arbuckles and so forth. So it's going to be a rather interesting film. I describe it as the new American Family. So I'm hoping that you'll be interested enough to donate to the film. Hollywood is just not doing these films, and as you've seen from the recent leak of material from Sony, black films are still not taken seriously. Black filmmakers, directors, actors, producers are simply not taken seriously. They want us to do Soul Plane and Soul Food and all these stereotypical minstrel shows that they love to put money into, but anything of substance, anything different, anything out of the norm, they won't do it. That's the kinds of films I do. That's probably why you've never heard of me, but I'm trying to make that break. We currently have 3 films pending national distribution, so and we have 5 others that are already in distribution, but like I said, since the major studios don't want black filmmakers to do anything but gangster films or relationship and social issue films, I just don't get the pub that I think I need, but we want to change that. So hopefully you'll like what you see. You'll support us, because we think this film is really going to be something special, especially with a black Italian guy named Vinnie Vincenzo. It's going to be wild. So thank you for your support, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Doobie doobie doo, doo doobie doobie. Smoke a doobie doo.
Okay, go.
Welcome back to Film Speak. We're here sitting with our guest, William Lee and Haley J. Madison, about to talk about the movie Blazing Saddles, 1974 comedy gold. You just can't make a movie this good anymore. Now, before...
Can we start over? Ooh. Something wrong with the background there, man. Oh, blacked out. What up with that?
I knew it was a black comedy. But
Literally.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys say go, just let me know.
I was punching the regular keys instead of the mixed effects keys. Sorry.
Oh,
it's okay.
You.
Hey, that's a perfect starter.
I'm going to do Spaceballs. There's space.
Okay, we'll just keep going. So back to you, and go ahead.
Welcome back to Film Speak. We are sitting here with our guest, William Lee and Haley J. Madison, about to talk about the 1974 almost perfect comedy, Blazing Saddles. This movie is funny on so many levels, and the impact that it had on society, people's points of view on racism, I mean, it's just remarkable. But before I pontificate on and on and on about it, let's find out what our guests think. We'll start with you, Mr. William Lee. Tell us about your feelings of Blazing Saddles.
Well, first of all, Mel Brooks was a godsend. He just has a style and a sense of humor and wit. Underlying that is this sensibility of there's this injustice in the world that needs to be addressed in this particular film. During that time, obviously, he did Young Frankenstein as well, so he was on a roll, no doubt. What I think makes this film so important, I think I was discussing this with you prior to the interview, was when I went to see this film, I believe we saw it at a drive-in, which they're sort of gone from the American landscape now. 1974 was the year I shot my first film, so had already been involved in film and just being a fan of films point blank. But what was so amazing about this film was that as a black person, I was even uncomfortable with the use of some of the language as the film started. I was like, wait a minute, they ain't calling that brother, what? No, I'm out of here. And then as the film progressed, I began to say, wait a minute, there's something a little deeper here than just language.
Yeah.
There's an actual attempt to take the language and twist it on its head, and I think one critic described it as punching a racist in the face, watching his nose bleed, and then making him laugh. And that's exactly what this film does. And so from that point on, I was in love with it. And I mean, we could sit here and probably go over all the really good comic moments in the film. My favorite one, and I told you this prior to the interview, harumph, harumph. I do that on all the set when I'm directing. People, younger people that haven't seen the film, like, is he okay? I mean, so the film holds a lot of different things in terms of just social relevance, just straightforward comedy, and just the influence that Mel Brooks had as a filmmaker.
They probably give you the puzzled look whenever you point out and say, I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
That's what they want to kick you off
give
the
the governor a harumph.
Yeah.
Watch your ass.
So, yeah. But it's great comedy. And again, it doesn't need to be a Mack Sennett special where people are tripping over boxes or falling out of buildings or Harold Lloyd hanging off the side of a clock tower. It's this humor that, yeah, you get it, and then you get it.
Yeah.
Sort of delayed punch type of thing.
It's funny you mentioned the social injustice in the film, which is prevalent. You could say the same thing for the film Young Frankenstein with the use of the creature being unjustly, you know, crucified, so to speak, because he's different.
Right.
So it's one of those
continuing
themes with Mel Brooks is inclusiveness.
And I think that's important too, because then it becomes more than a comedy. I mean, this isn't just a comic classic. This is a film cinematic classic. It's almost a genre-bending type of film, because now you're combining the serious subject with a comic take on it, but it's not slapstick.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, where do I pigeonhole this thing? You know, I guess, and I know at the time that the people at Warner Brothers were like, oh my God, what are we going to do with this thing? and as I recall, Richard Pryor and James Earl Jones were both supposed to play the role that Cleavon Little eventually played. So they had James Earl Jones, who was sort of well known in the film industry, and he was like, okay, this is a safe bet, which is, producers love that word, safe bet. He wouldn't offend anybody. Richard Pryor was like, loose cannon, get him out of here, can't use him, so he became one of the writers. Yeah. And that's a whole other story what happened during the writing of the film. But then Cleavon Little, who had done a lot of theater, did a lot of really small stuff, turned out to be the absolute perfect guy for this job. He's understated.
Understated, yeah.
He wouldn't be as serious as James Earl Jones, and he wouldn't be as over the top as Richard Pryor. So as far as safe, they got the right guy.
Oh, not to mention he was good looking.
That
didn't hurt.
Yeah, he definitely had a charisma. He did another film, I believe it was called Out of Sight or something of that, where this guy was racing a car across the...
Vanishing Point.
Vanishing Point, thank you. And he was the radio DJ. And it's a real bizarre film. But Cleavon Little in that film is just like, it's this story about this guy, and then there's this Black Power movement thing going on, and then there's this village of people that don't really like the radio guy, but they don't mess with him until the very end when they raid the station. So Cleavon had a very interesting film career. Sadly, he didn't get much after this.
You know what? The next thing I remember him in is 1984, the Jim Carrey flick Once Bitten. And that was the next thing that I remember him from.
Well, I was telling you prior to this, I recently watched the Walton's first, well, it was a film originally, The Homecoming, the 2 hours holiday special that was made for TV, and he was the preacher of the Black church.
And he did a lot of episodic TV after he did Blazing Saddles, a lot of TV shows that people like me would probably remember. And then they did a pilot called Black Bart, which was going to be the spin-off from this movie, which obviously didn't go anywhere because at that time, what, a black guy starring in a TV show? Oh, no, no way, get out of here. We can't sell that. Coke won't back you.
Yeah, if it's not the Jeffersons, we can't have that.
Exactly. So, and I guess another interesting aspect is that at that time, the blaxploitation movement was sort of beginning to tail off because of social pressures. A lot of black folk out there thought the blaxploitation movement was all negative, which I could go into a whole hour about that issue. But the point being is that after Blazing Saddles in 1974, black actors really became sort of an afterthought in terms of starring roles. It wasn't until the so-called Renaissance with Spike Lee and Eddie Murphy that black people began to be seen as stars and feature draws and that kind of thing. So there was a real dead period after this film.
And Michael Jackson, too.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that before Michael Jackson, black people did not get played on MTV.
Oh, never.
And they had to sue to get Michael Jackson played. And after that, you know, it opened up a whole new world. But yeah, I mean, as early as 20 years ago, you know, we're talking about serious racism dividing the entertainment industry like that. It's just awful. You know, another thing, you know, you talked about the alternative cast for Bart. Gene Wilder was a last-minute audition. Because they actually wanted John Wayne and then Lee Marvin.
That makes absolutely
sense. Did you hear the John Wayne story? I'm sure you've heard the John Wayne.
Yeah, he loved it. He's like, I love this. I cannot do this because it
bad
is
language.
complete.
He was up for it, and you know, you consider the image of John Wayne serious. He's a cowboy. You never think in a million years he wanted to do a film like this, and he was very open to it. But Richard Pryor's script didn't quite match his, you know, image, his screen image.
Well, and you think about the lines that Gene Wilder says about being an ex-gunfighter. You know, he's playing the part which was originally intended to be for a man in his 50s and 60s. You know, but he was a man in his 30s. But they didn't have anybody. It was just it's 3 days before shooting.
Wow.
You know,
I've been there.
And they'd been working on Young Frankenstein together, and Gene Wilder was just like, you know what, quit looking, I got this. And it's my favorite role. It's my favorite Gene Wilder role. See this hand? Steady as a rock. Yeah, but I shoot with this one. I mean, his lines, that is, because Gene Wilder is such a genius, and I love so many of his roles, but there's just something about the Waco Kid, you know, that just pulls at me. I love that character.
And from a perspective of someone who wasn't born in 1974, like us old folks, or before then, what'd you think from what you saw?
What'd you think,
well, like you were saying, like it started off super racist, and I started watching it, I was like, I mean, I live now, and I'm like, this is really bad. And then as the movie progressed, I was like, for the most part, I was like, wait, what's going on? Wait, oh, and then like something hilarious would happen, and then I'd forget that I didn't know what was going on, and then you know, they followed through in the whole like town thing, and then the fight, and then the ending was like probably the ending was just awesome, like because like they go into the other set, and then like all that stuff happens, and then they sit down and they're like, well, let's watch the rest of the movie, let's watch the ending, and then an actual ending happened on screen, then they're back in the West. It's just
there's so many, because you just pointed out there's so many layers, because on one aspect it's a homage, satire of the 1930s, 40s westerns. You know, the Randolph Scott, John Ford, John Wayne kind of westerns. And then on another level, it's poking fun at the idiocy of racism. You know, and then, like you said at the end, when they crash into another set, it goes into a satire of the Hollywood industry itself.
Yes.
You know, genius film.
Yeah.
And I love, I mean, just the stuff of, we need some dimes. Somebody's got to go back and get a whole bunch of dimes.
And it's like the whole, like, that's,
just go around
you could just go around.
Yeah. And I, think
I know how to hold them up. I know how to hold them up.
go.
And then it's like, we need dimes.
Yeah.
Oh
And I think the whole Mongo sequence where Cleveland Little is doing the Bugs Bunny thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now we're talking about animated characters becoming an influence in the film. And then he goes to the Broadway stage show, that part. I mean, just everything you can think of, he just sort of takes it and just mashes all this stuff together, and it works, which it doesn't always work. There are people who have tried to do this kind of thing, and it's just like, dude, you're all over the place. I can't get it. Somehow he's managed, he even breaks the fourth wall, as you said. They watch the movie they're in. And so now you as an audience member are going, how am I supposed to feel about this? You know, am I watching a movie, or am I just watching a movie? You know, and so it becomes sort of this mind play. But I mean, what can you say about this movie? It's absolute genius. I mean, it really is.
Some of the one-liners just got me.
Oh, there's too many. There's so many one-liners.
My name's Jim, but there are people who call me Jim. I mean, just the little things like that. I
thought you were hung. Oh, I am.
Oh, yeah, they said you was hung, and man, they were right.
But and then Madeline Kahn, as we were discussing previously, she is just so underrated. In the stuff she does, and I mean, you just watch her, and it's like, as I remember them saying, she was very nervous before shooting. She was very particular about her attire, how she looked. Worried about the lines, just worry. They said the minute the cameras came on, totally different person.
All went away.
And that's tough because typically it's the reverse.
Yeah.
You're very calm, and then director says action, and I mean, still, I've been doing this 40 years. When I get ready to do an acting scene, I still freeze up. There's a split second where I just go, I don't know my lines.
Have that moment for.
And then once I get back to the actor, I'm okay. And my problem is thinking as a director. I'm always worried about the shot, am I in frame, blah, blah, blah. All that's in my head. And when action comes, I say, okay, I'm an actor now, I go. And for her, it was the exact opposite.
You know, for me, comedy actresses have a lot to live up to, because my three big comedy actress idols are Madeline Kahn, Lily Tomlin, and Gilda Radner. You know, all heydays were the late 60s through the 70s and stuff.
I'm a little older. I'd put Lucy in there.
Oh, yeah.
Lucille Ball.
Simply because she was groundbreaking and changed the male-dominated film world. I mean,
she ran the show.
Yes. She didn't take any guff. It would have been interesting as a sort of a sidelight to see her in this film. I don't know if she would have been too much, but I think she had a serious side to her.
Yeah.
That probably would have worked in the film as well. And I don't know if she was available or she just didn't want to do it, but I thought that was interesting.
She would have been interesting in that film.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts, Debbie?
No, just if you haven't seen it, really
You're
grab
crazy.
It. Yeah.
What are you doing? Watch the movie over here. Stupid or something?
It's in the top 100 AFI films. You should check out all of those, but especially this one for Mel Brooks. So
especially Blazing Saddles. Yeah. I mean, I love a lot of his movies. The Producers, if you've never seen it, that's his first one. And Gene Wilder's first film.
Right.
You have to see The Producers. But Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. Have yourself a double feature. Get some pizza. Sit down and laugh your butt off, because you will. Unless you don't have a soul, I guess.
Loser.
Any final thoughts from you, Haley?
Well, I guess this is where I can speak from a young person standpoint. This is definitely a classic. Like, I think a lot of people, when they look at these older movies, they're like, oh, well, that's out of my time. Like, I won't be able to handle it. Like, it's too slow because everything's so fast-paced now. And it's like, this is not that kind of movie. It's super fast, like quick on the draw, and it's hilarious. It's a really good one.
The jokes come at machine gun pace. You have to watch it again because of the jokes you laughed through the last time you watched it.
Right. It's so great. It's pretty good.
And final thoughts there, Mr. Lee?
I mean, again, people tend to think that films made before the 90s are, they're just those old films. The same problem people have with black and white films. I don't want to watch this black and white. Colorize it. I want to see it. Let me make you understand that this is a film that could not be shot today, simply because of the political correctness of Hollywood and society in general. The first time the guy uttered the N-word or they were making fun of gay people, producers go, we can't touch that, we'll be sued. So it's important from a historical standpoint that this film says, you know what, screw it, we're going for it. Everybody, it's an equal opportunity offender film. That's what I call it. Everybody gets it. So in order to appreciate what Mel Brooks is and what he did, and in general, what filmmaking is never going to be again, unless I have a chance to do it, this is essential to watch. It just really breaks all the conventions, and it succeeds because at its heart, it is funny. And that's hard to say about a lot of comedies now. We're all gross out and over the top now.
Yeah, fart jokes.
Yeah, well, fart jokes, Blazing Saddles.
Yep.
That was, I think that was the creator of the fart joke.
Yes,
probably.
And boy, did they drive it home.
Yeah, they do.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming on and giving us your thoughts, not just on Blazing Saddles, but what you're doing in the local industry for film and stuff. And I hope as more projects develop that you guys will be able to come back. Maybe tackle another classic movie.
That'll do. You got it.
But thank you very much, and thank you everybody for watching us today. And there's that Cleavon Little with his Gucci suit and Gucci saddlebags. Love that. Have to see the movie to get it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Thank you everybody, and good night. It was a great show.
Well, thanks.
Start over.
Rewind. Whenever you're ready.
We're waiting on you.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. That was a great show.
Thanks to William Lee and Haley J. Madison for joining us today. We hope they had a good time and aren't emotionally scarred too much.
After some therapy, maybe they'll come back and join us again.
Keep up with us on Facebook.
That is at Facebook that is at Facebook /Talk Films to me. You think after all the times that I've said that, I'd get it right.
Yeah, right.
Keep up on the episodes of what's coming out, or just give us a piece of your mind.
We'd love to hear from you.
Please join us next time as we will ponder the meaning of our existence and the vastness of the cosmos and try to answer the questions concerning life, the universe, and everything.
Really?
No, we're just going to talk about film.
Oh, that's good.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Killed that film more than anything. It just.
Well, you know, I love silent movie. I love high anxiety, and I think we might.
Recording, so
all right, let's do it.
Start out on you guys.